Today, we're going to explore Notting Hill, one of London's most beloved neighborhoods. Notting Hill in West London is a creative and multicultural hub known for the Portobello Road Market, colorful townhouses, and of course that bookshop. We'll visit all of the interesting places in Notting Hill, plus we'll uncover a few hidden gems and visit the area's best pubs. Records show that Notting Hill's name goes all the way back to the 1300s when it was known as Notting Hall. I'm at Avondale Park, and now this is a beautiful park, but it used to be a field that was just full of stinky pig slurry called the Ocean. Across from the Ocean is one of the few remaining pottery kilns in London. This was a major source for brick and tiles that were made from the clay that was found in this area. The kiln in the Ocean made this one of the poorest sections of London. Back then, this section of Notting Hill was called Potteries and Piggies. In the 1800s, James Ladbroke and Thomas Allison developed the area and transformed it into the beginnings of the high-end neighborhood that we know today. Allison, in fact, was the one that came up with the concept of a private garden behind houses, where the prevalent gardens in London used to be the big garden squares. Nowadays, a private garden is a feature in many highly valued London residential properties. This is a great time to make our first pub stop. This is the Ladbroke Arms. It's a great spot that's a little hidden away from the large crowds and tourists. The food is absolutely great, and if it's not so busy outside, you can sit out in the garden and have a cheeky pint. Especially in this neighborhood, the odds of spotting a celebrity here is high. Hey Justin, who is the most famous person you've served here?
We have actually Hugh Jackman, he's been here, Ed Sheeran, and Simon Cowell.
And they're not the only ones that are fun to hang out with here. The Ladbroke Arms is fantastic, but on a day like this, it's going to be busy, but I would highly recommend it. It's a great place. When you look at Notting Hill on a map, the most obvious thing you see is a large circle around Ladbroke Grove. This was once the site of the Hippodrome racecourse. Spectators stood on the hill to watch races, but unfortunately the track was short-lived as the clay surface became waterlogged and unstable, forcing closure in 1841 after only 4 years in operation. Now this part of Notting Hill features large townhouses and mansions, which were a bargain at the time they were built, because the richest Londoners were reluctant to leave the central London neighborhoods like Mayfair and Belgravia. So as you walk through the Ladbroke Grove neighborhood, you'll notice some of the huge mansions that have windows that are boarded up. So as you know, England is known for its appalling taxes. And one of the things they used to tax is the windows on these huge mansions. So the way that the homeowners would get around that is they would board up the windows. If you ask me, that was some pretty clever tax evasion. One hidden gem on this side of Notting Hill is St. Peter's Church. This church not only boasts a beautiful facade and clock tower, it has a wide open interior and colorful stained glass windows. But the star attraction is a spectacular reproduction of Da Vinci's Last Supper. As we move into the more commercial district of Notting Hill, we move away from the mansions and into the more affordable housing areas. I'll tell you the far-reaching effect that World War II had in this area, but first we have to make a stop that you've all been waiting for. So now we're at that bookstore. Or are we? So this is the actual bookstore that the movie was based on, and you can see that it has a blue plaque that tells you that. But even this is just the facade that the movie's bookstore was based upon. The owner didn't want any filming in his store. This is one of several places that tries to trick you into thinking it's the real bookshop from the movie. Don't be that person that stands in front of a cheesy Portobello Road souvenir store and takes a picture of it. Now let's hit a confirmed set in another great pub, the Duke of Wellington. This is not only an iconic Notting Hill pub, it's also a great place to get away and take a break from the Portobello Road crowds. And it's not just a Notting Hill movie set, it's also where Adele signed her first recording contract. So as I enjoy my pint here at the Duke, I'm going to give you a little background about how Notting Hill turned into the dynamic and multicultural neighborhood it is now. Let's take a walk beyond the flyway to what's considered a less attractive part of town. Notting Hill was hit hard by the Blitz in World War II, and after Reconstruction, the low rents and the housing drew a lot of Asians, Arabic people, Africans, and especially Caribbeans, and it became a very unsafe neighborhood to be in. Racial tensions boiled over, culminating in the 1958 riots, which saw 8 days of violence. There were accusations of indifference by the police, and eventually harsh sentences were dealt out to several of the white youths who started the trouble with neighborhood immigrants. Gentrification started in the late 80s, so even dodgy areas like here in the East End had houses that were going for over £1 million. The riots also galvanized the Afro-Caribbean community, and the first annual Notting Hill Carnival was held in 1964. The Carnival is still held every August and draws about 3 million people to the weekend event. This is one of the world's largest street festivals with parades, music, and outstanding street food. As big as the Carnival is, it's not the biggest draw in Notting Hill. That honor goes to the Portobello Road Market. If you come here on a Saturday, all of the antique clothing and food stands will be open. But those crowds are absurd. But there are so many interesting items to browse and foods to taste, it really is worth coming at least once. But you can still have a great Portobello Road experience on weekdays, as the shops, pubs, and some stands are open for business. Like here at the Earl of Lonsdale. This is such a classic London pub. You need to duck under the woodwork to get to different sections. You can get away from it all at the private beer garden, or you can even sit outside in the front and do some prime Portobello Road people watching. They have tasty food and a lot of ale on tap, so it's worth the trip. Yeah, it's easy to see why people are so crazy about Notting Hill. Hey, look, that's where I got my hat. Shout out to shop number 87, Portobello Road Hatters. There's no shortage of Portobello Road gastropubs and eateries, but if you want to head a little bit away from the crowds, go up Talbot Road towards All Saints Church. When you get to Powis Square, you'll see a pretty impressive building. The Tabernacle is a cultural arts and entertainment venue with a bar and restaurant and a garden courtyard. The impressive former church, built in 1887, was refurbished in 1998. Pink Floyd and the Stones held rehearsals here, and it was a favorite hangout for the Clash. Not too far away from the Tabernacle is what I would consider Notting Hill's best hidden gem, the Walmer Castle. I wanted to check this place out because I heard it was owned at one time by David Beckham and Guy Ritchie. I heard about its reputation as a celebrity hangout. But what I really liked about it was it had the same neighborhoody feel as like a Hampstead pub. And the food, oh my god, it was so good. I didn't even realize that there's a full restaurant upstairs. It's a place I'm gonna have to go back to. I know that sometimes I tend to be overly effusive in my praise of the pubs that I go to, but the Walmer Castle is really nice, and I think you'll like it, so you should try it out. Well, that was a great diversion, but it's time to head back to the market and make my way back home. So when you leave the market and walk back to Notting Hill Gate Station, you'll see why this neighborhood is so popular. These colorful houses are frequently photographed and posted on Instagram. They're beautiful and even a little historic, as evidenced by some of the blue plaques. Just past the houses, Portobello Road had one more surprise for me. This has got to be the 4th or 5th video that I've tried to find a Banksy. Well, finally, made you look. Just past the Banksy, you certainly won't miss the blinding Sun and the Splendor pub. And that leads you right down Pembridge Road with all of its cool boutiques, record shops, and cafes. I'm a fan of two places in particular. Backstage Originals is a t-shirt shop with every band you can think of. And I always save a little bit of space for arancina. This is definitely some of the best pizza I've had in London, and the staff is so friendly. And Pembridge Street takes you right to Notting Hill Gate Station. Be sure to watch my London's Hidden Rock Neighborhood video where I go over the rich rock history of Notting Hill. And I want to thank you for watching, and if you could please like, subscribe, and share, and definitely comment. I read every one of them, and I couldn't do this without you. Cheers.